Hey guys, it's me, Weep here, back with the continuation part 4 for What If Naruto Had Anti-Chakra. If you guys have not already, please make sure to go check if you're subscribed, hit that notification bell while you're down there, like button, and maybe even comment something about the video if you liked, or maybe you want me to add something to it. Anyhow, if you guys have not seen any of the previous parts, make sure to go look in the upper right hand corner right now, and a playlist should pop up where you can click it and go watch the previous parts of the series and catch up. Then come back to this video and you'll be updated on the story. Anyhow, let's just get into this part for What If Naruto Had Anti-Chakra. Naruto is sitting in a pool of blood at the Land of Ways. As snow had already begun descending down the bridge, Naruto's eyes had a dark look in them, something that Sakura herself had never seen before. From Sakura's perspective, we can see as Naruto is sitting in this pool of blood, as he then takes his hand, pushing himself out of it, walking past the corpses of Gato's men that he had slaughtered himself, butchered like animals. Naruto would look down as he sees Sasuke's body bleeding, with bandages now being wrapped over it as Sasuke looks dead. Is he alive? Naruto would ask calmly as he looks up at Sakura, his eyes now causing Sakura to jump from fear. Kakashi would put his hand on Naruto's shoulder, who would react immediately as he looks up at Kakashi, with Kakashi telling him that Sasuke should be fine, and they need to get back to the Leaf Village immediately. Sasuke, who's still knocked out, and also has severe injuries, would not be waking up anytime soon. The injuries he'd taken here were actually worse than the ones he had gotten originally back during the Land of Waves arc in the original timeline. Back then, Haku had been holding back at least, because Haku had thought that he could easily take out Sasuke and Naruto. But in this timeline, Naruto is much stronger and caused Haku to actually attack for their vital points, causing Sasuke to get hurt badly. Team 7 would be on the way back to the Leaf Village, as Naruto would be walking along, with Tazuna putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder and thanking him for everything he had done, telling him that the name of the bridge would be the Naruto Bridge, in honor of what Naruto had done that day to save him and continue the progress to help the Land of Waves be free from under Gato's rule over the trade there. Naruto would nod solemnly as he would begin walking back with Kakashi and Sakura. Naruto himself would be carrying Sasuke on his shoulder, who's still knocked out and unconscious. Kakashi, is he ever gonna wake up? Naruto would ask, as he looks at his comatose friend. Sasuke's final words to Naruto before he had been taken out by Haku were ringing in Naruto's head. Kill Itachi. Kill my older brother, that bastard. Naruto would be lost in thought as he almost walks into a tree, with Kakashi telling Naruto to keep his senses sharp. If there's any enemies on the way back, then they have to run into. That would be unfortunate if Naruto is caught off guard, especially now that Naruto's carrying one of his friends on his shoulders. And if he lost Sasuke's life and his own, then Sasuke would never forgive him. Naruto would nod as he keeps focus, with nothing actually happening on the way back. Now around a week has passed since Naruto has made it back to the Leaf Village, and Sasuke in this time has still not woken up. The villagers are beginning to talk about an idea, with Danzo as well as the other heads beginning to talk about the idea of trying to find Lady Tsunade to heal Sasuke. Especially in this timeline where Danzo still has to follow Itachi's promise that was made between them, with Itachi saying that the leaf would protect Sasuke, and if his younger brother died, then Itachi would reveal all the information about the leaf to the Akatsuki, and would refuse to be a double agent for them anymore. So Sasuke's life was a top priority for the Leaf Village. Naruto, of course, didn't know this though. Naruto would have had 2 new katanas given to him, with now having 2 on each side of his belt that he now attached to himself. When Kakashi had gotten the 2 new blades shipped in, he would tell Naruto to keep practicing up and keeping up with his sword training, saying that if Naruto actually wanted to keep mastering the blade, then this would be the best option he could go with. Naruto had considered taking the Executioner's Blade from Zabuza, but had decided that leaving it as part of the grave for Zabuza's honor was a better decision. And especially since the blade wasn't a chakra harnessing one, Naruto wouldn't be able to use his anti-chakra with it, which would kind of negate the benefits at all to begin with. Anyhow, Naruto would now have his 2 blades, that is, he turned them into anti-chakra blades, causing the metal to turn pitch black just like with the old katana. Naruto would go out to walk as he goes to meet with Sakura, having asked her to go out and get something to eat with him. With this version, Naruto not being a simp for Sakura, but still wanting to actually be her friend, since Naruto's trying to befriend more people in the Leaf Village, especially those on his team in Team 7, to try and learn this teamwork that Kakashi had told him about. With Naruto and Sakura walking around, in this version Sasuke won't be following close behind like he had in the original since he's still in hospital. Another interesting thing is that Konohamaru and Naruto are not nearly as close as they were in the original, so when Konohamaru is getting bullied by Gaara, Naruto wouldn't even really bat an eye. However, he would know that Konohamaru was the third Hokage's grandson, so he wouldn't allow that to happen, as he sees Kankuro picking up the small boy. "Hey," Naruto would say, as he looks at Kankuro, his eyes having the same darkness that he had gained from Zabuza and Haku's deaths. Kankuro would look over as he meets Naruto's eyes, when he would suddenly think, "This kid is just like Gaara." Kankuro would instinctively drop Konohamaru as he then walks away thanking Naruto for the help, saying that he shouldn't have helped him just because he was the third Hokage's grandson though. Naruto wouldn't even bat an eye at him, he still locked eyes with Kankuro, with Naruto's hand on one of his blades on each side. As Kankuro was prepared for a fight, Gaara would suddenly walk up from behind as he puts a hand on Kankuro, asking, "What's going on here?" Gaara would suddenly meet Naruto's eyes as the two cold stares would meet, with a new tension brewing in the air. Almost like a thick fog, the bloodlust between the two was insane, as both could tell the other had remarkable skill. Gaara would decide that this was not a good time for this battle, telling Kankuro that they don't need to fight here, as Naruto would release his grip on his katanas, as he asks Gaara what his name is. "I don't need to give you my name. I'll only exchange mine if you give me yours first," Gaara would say. Naruto would say, "My name is Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto's eyes would now be locked in with Gaara's, as Gaara would tell Naruto that his name is Gaara of the Sand. As the two would then part ways, Sakura would ask what that was all about, with Naruto saying just a small contest of wills. Naruto would then ask Sakura why she thinks that there's actual sand ninja in the Leaf Village. They should ask Kakashi about this immediately. Naruto would go to meet up with Kakashi, as Kakashi was actually looking for his team too, asking them if they'd be interested in a certain subject matter. As Kakashi finds them, he would then ask Naruto a question. He would ask, "Would you and Sakura like to enter into the Chunin Exams?" The Chunin Exams, Naruto would be thinking. Naruto would gulp as he asked Kakashi if he could explain a little bit more about it, with Kakashi deciding to do so. Kakashi would explain that the Chunin Exams are a contest for the Genin to level up to the next rank in the ninja society. Usually I'd wait a little bit longer and I'd send 3 of you with you, Sasuke, and Sakura, but, you know, Sasuke's kind of out right now. Naruto would nod, saying that he's interested, but he would ask Kakashi why he'd give him the option, if being that there's only 2 of them. Sakura would gulp, being worried about if she could actually do this, while Kakashi would then mention, saying that if the 2 of you can enter the Chunin Exams before Sasuke can wake up, then Sasuke will see how much farther he has to go, and will be pushed to keep up with the 2 of you, even after he'd been taken out in this battle. Kakashi would say this as well as tell Naruto that it'll help him keep his mind off things. Naruto would look down as he thinks about what Sasuke would want. He knows that Sasuke himself would want to be in this battle. He'd want to enter the Chunin Exams himself, but since he can't go, Naruto would say, "I'll go in his stead." Naruto would have an idea. He would ask Kakashi if Kakashi could work out something with the administrators, saying that if Naruto can handle both himself and Sasuke's tasks during the exam, if he would allow Sasuke to join near the 3rd stage or the final stage of the exam if possible. Kakashi's eyes would widen, asking Naruto why he would think that, with Naruto saying that he thinks if he can give Sasuke a bit more time, then maybe he'll be able to enter the exam after all. Naruto would say this confidently, as Naruto and Kakashi would have a bit of a staring contest for a while, with Kakashi eventually sighing and saying he'll give in and go and ask them. Naruto would cheer as he says he's ready for this, with a bit of light returning to his eyes that had been missing for some time. Naruto would punch his fist into his hand, saying that that's going to be his Nindo. He's going to protect people and help up people who can't help themselves. When you're down, when my friends are down, I'll be the rock they can pull themselves up on, Naruto would say, as he feels it inside of himself. This was the right way. This is the way to go. Naruto would now have a new goal in mind, as he feels himself a bit more cheerful now and less depressed. Naruto would say thanks to Kakashi as he has to get back to training, with Naruto now getting onto a tree as he begins working again on his Anti-Chakra training, and doing push-ups, sit-ups, and working out his physical body too, of course. Naruto would begin training with his kunai, as well as throwing skills, as well as his actual katana, so he can work on his swordsmanship. Now, here comes another actual big change, and that's Sakura actually wants to do her best in the Chunin Exams because Sasuke, not being there in her stead, would not be able to protect her anymore, meaning that it's just her and Naruto, and she doesn't know if she can really rely on Naruto like that. Sakura knows that if she wants to pass for Sasuke, she's gonna have to give it her all. So Sakura in this timeline won't just be sitting there for the last 3 days before the exam, sitting on her hands doing nothing. In fact, she would go up to Naruto and ask if he would be willing to train and spar with her. Sakura? You don't want to be you actually want to try doing something? Sakura would nod as her eyes looked determined. What? A Sakura in one of that one Weeps What Ifs where she's not absolutely garbage? What the hell? What? I know, crazy, right guys? But enough meta. Naruto would actually agree to this, as Naruto would pull out one of his katana and throw it to Sakura, as he takes the others, telling her to get ready. Immediately as he touches Sakura's hands, the black on the blade would begin to disintegrate, as her chakra and the anti-chakra would now negate each other. What the hell? Was Sakura thinking? She would ask Naruto what just happened, with Naruto saying sorry, that he didn't mean to actually take off the anti-chakra beforehand, so that was his fault. Naruto would learn one valuable thing from this though, and that's that when he imbues anti-chakra into something, the anti-chakra will stay until it comes into contact with chakra, meaning he could probably create some sort of projectiles with kunai, or even other objects. Anyhow, Naruto and Sakura begin training, as Sakura isn't so much trying to master swordsmanship as her reaction speed and just attack power in general. Sakura would try and get used to Naruto's intense speed, since Naruto is probably going to be one of the higher level opponents that they'll be having to fight in the Chunin Exams, so Sakura is trying to get used to this level of combat. Naruto had promised he'll only use the blunt end of the blade, and that he won't try to hurt her too badly, and Sakura would gulp, as the two begin training for the next 3 days. Naruto would help Sakura actually develop a bit faster reflexes, and her strength in taijutsu is a bit better than it was in the original at this point in the series, which is pretty interesting for only 3 days of training with Naruto. Pretty good. So the next 3 days had passed as Naruto and Sakura would head out, deciding and feeling determined that they're going to win this thing. They're going to beat the Chunin Exams for Sasuke. As Naruto enters into the building, the genjutsu technique that had been placed on the building would suddenly collapse, as the shinobi who had done it would be shocked. What the hell just happened, he'd be thinking, as all the chakra that had been surrounding the building would have come into contact with Naruto's anti-chakra, dispelling the genjutsu. That's right, by the way, guys, genjutsu is not effective against anti-chakra in the slightest either, so that means that Naruto is resistant to genjutsu as well. In fact, as Naruto and Sakura rise up for the building, this would be when they would pass Lee, as well as Neji and Tenten. As soon as Rock Lee sees Naruto, something in him begins to spark, as this is who he's been waiting for, a opponent that he has been wanting to fight for the longest time ever since hearing about him. Lee would immediately walk up to Naruto and challenge him, bowing and asking Naruto if he'd be willing to fight someone like him. Lee would look up with excitement in his eyes as Naruto's a bit shocked, as his blue eyes would meet with Lee's dark ones. "Who are you, bushy brows?" Naruto would ask, with Lee introducing himself again as Rock Lee, the student of my Guy, and Guy Sensei's strongest taijutsu pupil, he would say. Well, hopefully strongest, Lee would say as he looks down, thinking about Neji. Neji and Tenten would both sigh, saying they're just going to get into the exam, with Neji keeping an eye on Naruto, noticing with his Byakugan that something's different about him. This one's trouble. I can feel it. Neji would already be worried about Naruto, as he has this aura of strength around him that none of the other participants have had so far that he's seen. As Naruto and Lee begin to face off, Sakura would watch, telling Naruto to do his best, with Naruto nodding, saying he's going to. Suddenly, Lee would disappear, but Naruto's eyes could keep up at this time. A kick to my left side of my head, huh? Naruto would lift up his left arm as he blocks the kick easily, with his arm colliding into the weights, as Naruto's pure rock-hard muscle would collapse with Lee's hard-earned trained muscles as well. "You're so strong," Lee would say as he's smiling. "You're just like me," he'd be thinking in his head. "Alright, let's do this thing," he'd say as he pounds his fists together, knowing that he isn't to hold back. Lee would throw a flurry of punches at Naruto, who has bandages on both hands as well. The two who both wear bandages on their hands and arms would easily begin clashing with each other, with now flurries of white seemingly hitting through the air. As the two are moving so fast, Sakura can't even keep up. They're so fast! They're taijutsu, it's insane! Lee wouldn't be noticing something though, as Naruto's applying a little bit of anti-chakra into every single one of his punches. "I'm getting slower," Lee would be thinking, as he feels himself getting drained. Naruto's little bit of anti-chakra technique that he's been trying to harness allows Naruto to not throw all of his anti-chakra into his punches, which allows him to slowly chip down his opponent's chakra, causing them to slow down and lose stamina without them realizing it. "How am I so tired?" he'd be thinking. Naruto would finally throw a stronger punch as he inputs more anti-chakra into it, a black energy visibly beginning to surround his hand. "What is that?" Lee would be thinking. "I cannot use ninjutsu or genjutsu," he'd be thinking. What is he using? I heard that Naruto couldn't use jutsu either. Dispel fists, Naruto would say, as he punches with his full power with all of his anti-chakra he can muster into this punch. Ugh. Lee would suddenly almost not be knocked out, as his eyes and vision would fade. Lee would get slammed into the wall as a crack appears from the pure power and strength. This would be when Guy would come flying out of nowhere about to what he would have thought would kick Lee as he was about to use one of the gates, but Lee was knocked out. Lee, are you okay? Guy would run over as he says he's sorry for his student's stead to Naruto. Guy would be surprised, however, as he sees Naruto's body. It's so strong. What the? Guy would be thinking. This kid is pretty tough. He would look back to Lee, thinking if he could beat Lee, even Lee with his weights on, still pretty fast. This guy must be pretty good. Anyway, Guy would then say outside of his head, thanks for knocking some sense into his pupil, his student, as he would then pick up Lee himself and walk off towards the area where the participants would be taking their now first exam. Naruto would sigh as he begins rewrapping his bandages, having noticed that his right hand, when he charged all the anti-chakra, had actually dispelled the bandages around it, which caused a big burst of energy to remove them. As Naruto finishes tying up the bandages again, Sakura would be in awe, saying that was amazing, Naruto, with Naruto saying it wasn't that big of a deal. Naruto would then tell her they have to hurry if they want to get to the exam, so they can win this thing for Sasuke. As Naruto gets into the exam, Naruto would gulp, thinking what would be the first test. However, in this time, when Naruto gets into the exam, he would also proclaim what his victory would be. Naruto this time, though, has some actual skills to back up his confidence, as Naruto would walk into the room, as he then shouts out and proclaiming confidently, "All of you are going down! I'm winning this thing!" As Naruto says this, he would then sit down in the corner waiting, as some of the other shinobi would laugh at him. Naruto would then stand up as he then says if anyone really wants to laugh and get knocked out of the exam now, they're feel free to come challenge him. If they can beat him in an arm wrestling contest, then he'll drop out himself. Naruto would be using this to try and now take out some of the opponents earlier on, using some more of a witty technique. In fact, 2 of these opponents would actually take this idea, as they would then promptly lose to Naruto's pure physical strength, with the rest after seeing those 2 deciding that it wasn't worth it, and the kid might actually have some skill after all. With the rest of the Genin sighing a sigh of relief after seeing Naruto actually wasn't a complete idiot, and also he got 2 people out of the exam already, that was crazy. Kabuto would be shocked as he sees this, with him looking down at his card having seen before that Naruto's cards, his ninja cards, said that he was pretty much a low target, not having any skills or unique abilities of any kind. Kabuto would be intrigued with Naruto as he would try to go over to talk to him. Naruto in this version would be a bit less friendly though, as he asks what Kabuto wants, knowing that he probably has a second ulterior motive up his sleeve. Kabuto would hold his hands up saying he's just trying to pass the exam, and it's good to make allies early on. You don't want too many enemies. Naruto would say thanks for the advice, but he already has one ally, and that's enough for him. This would be when the first test would begin to commence, as this first test would be a written exam. Oh my no! Naruto would be thinking. He was not good at written exams still. This Naruto is still a knuckle-headed idiot. Other than the fact that he knows a bit better about his ability and is physically stronger, his mental ability is pretty much still the same, as Naruto would be sweating as everyone around would be thinking that he must be acing the exam. Hinata would be sitting next to Naruto still in the same timeline, as she would offer him to look at her test answers. As Naruto sees Hinata, he quickly moves away, saying he's sorry, as Naruto in this version remembers that what he had done and had hurt Hinata, if you guys remember from last time. Hinata would be a bit sad actually, as Hinata actually thinks that Naruto doesn't like her because of her, so she doesn't realize that Naruto feels guilty. So these two have a much more interesting dynamic, I think, that we would have seen earlier on than what we got in Shippuden. Anyhow, Naruto would just be sitting on the test sweating as he thinks about what he can do. Naruto closes his eyes as he uses all of his senses listening around, as he listens to the pencils moving, listens to the people breathing, and decides that he can do this. As the final question comes up, and everyone is asked if they wish to leave now to raise their hands. Naruto would begin to raise his hand as he hasn't filled out a single question, before slamming it down, saying that he's not going to give up. Naruto would be the only person there in the entire testing site who actually hadn't filled out any questions and still did not give up on the last one, and he would have passed, with that having been the true test the entire time. Sakura would breathe out a sigh of relief, asking Naruto how he did, with Naruto now breathing out a sigh too, saying, "Whew, just one question." Sakura would gag as she asked, "What?" with her now telling Naruto he's an idiot. Naruto would laugh, saying, "Yeah, he is," with the two then heading out, as Anko would have come to take the rest of the participants to the Forest of Death. With the entire group of participants now moving out, Gaara, Neji, and Naruto would have already begun feeling each other out, feeling that these three would be the toughest opponents in the entire area. These three would be the people in their way. And Naruto could even tell this himself. Naruto would tell Sakura they'll have a slight disadvantage in this next one, and he has a feeling about that. Something he can't shake. Anko would then give out the scrolls as she explains the test, with Naruto not interrupting this time like he had in the original, and having that situation with Anko, him, and Orochimaru. Naruto and his team would have been given an Earth Scroll, meaning they had to find a Heaven Scroll. Okay. Sakura, we're ready for this. We can do this. That's what we put our training in for, right? Naruto would say. Sakura would nod. An interesting development in this timeline is that Orochimaru only has a bit less incentive to attack Team 7 this time, since Sasuke isn't there, meaning that there's no way for him to put the curse mark on Sasuke like he had in the original at this point in time. Orochimaru would be wondering where Sasuke was, knowing that he was going to be here, and he's not. Which would be an interesting development that is kind of different to the story than the original. However, his second target, Naruto, would still be here. Now you may be wondering, why is Naruto a target? And that's because Orochimaru would have been doing research into this ability. After having heard about the tale of how the nine-tailed fox had been defeated by a baby all those years ago, he was definitely interested in this ability. I would have been researching about Anti-Chakra and how rare and unique it was in its abilities. So Orochimaru was definitely interested in trying to get Naruto or Sasuke's body. But he didn't know if the jutsu that he could use on Naruto would even work, since he had heard that even Sealing Jutsu wouldn't work on Naruto, and Genjutsu weren't either, from his tests and results. Anyhow, the test would begin as Naruto and Sakura would then run into the Forest of Death. If you guys want to see the next part for What If Naruto had Anti-Chakra, make sure to slap the like button, comment down below what you thought, and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this from me. Hopefully I'll see all of you guys in the next video. Next part will probably be coming out in like 2 days or so. We'll see. Anyhow, I'm pretty excited for what's going to happen next in the Chunin exams. I will just say the Naruto and Gaara fight, it's going to be amazing. The Naruto and Neji fight's going to be amazing. I'm excited for this. So, I'll see you guys then. Goodbye.